I mean, if you look at the demographics, it is perfectly reasonable to assume that Putin was going to be the last leader of Russia anyway. If you're just staying in power to be the person to be the person who will turn the lights off, the best case scenario is we get something a little bit like what happened after Mao left in China, like a gang of four from the different factions who rules as a committee, and then one of the four offs the other three, and then he's in charge. That's kind of the best case scenario now. I think it'd be more likely that Putin has so removed everyone of leadership talent that we're probably going to have more of an organizational collapse.
Peter Zeihan in this video offers a political and geopolitical analysis of the state of Russia with a focus on the leadership of Vladimir Putin, the nature of the Russian state, and the specific case of Chechnya. Number 1. Demographics and leadership. Zeihan starts by linking Russia's demographic situation to its political leadership, suggesting that Vladimir Putin may be the last leader of Russia. He asserts that the lack of alternative leadership is the result of Putin's systematic removal of potential successors, leading to an anticipated political void upon his departure. Number 2. Russian Federation structure. Zeihan compares the political and economic structure of Russia with that of the United States. He points out that unlike the US, which has discrete economic entities and a federal system allowing regional leadership, Russia's geography and political history do not permit regional autonomy. Russia is positioned as a multi-ethnic empire centered around Moscow and St. Petersburg, with secondary cities being dependent on these two primary ones.
Igor Sechin of Rosneft, that's the state oil company, is probably the most capable who's left. But everyone else of the 150 KGB members that are left so thoroughly hate him in all things that it's really doubtful that he'd be able to rally anyone to his flag. So there really is no one. We look at leadership different than the Russians do. The strongman is who rules Russia. It always has been. The terrain does not lead to regional leaders, or regional economics that are separate. So like, here, Texas, New York, California, Florida, Minnesota, these are all discrete economic entities. And so we have a federal system where each of the states chooses their own leadership and then submits their leadership choices at a representative level to Washington. That would never work in the Russian Federation. In the Federation, you've got Moscow, you've got St. Petersburg, and then you have all these secondary cities that are dependent upon some degree of link to one of those two, and all of them have been conquered by Russia over the course of their existence. Every single one of them. Russia is not a republic. It's certainly not a democracy. It's a multi-ethnic empire.
Number 3. Strongman politics. He emphasizes that the Russian political system requires a central strongman for stability. The appointment of regional strongmen like Ramzan Kadyrov in Chechnya is about maintaining control rather than fostering growth or jobs. Zeihan underlines the feudal nature of this system, with the chosen leaders given a degree of autonomy to maintain order and suppress dissent.
And with that sort of political and economic footing, someone's in charge. And if someone's not in charge, no one's in charge. And the future of Russia, in my opinion, is probably going towards the latter. But for now, it means that you have a strongman in the center who appoints regional strongmen like Kadyrov to look after things for him. This is not about growth. This is not about jobs. This is not about popularity. This is about control.
Number 4, Chechen case. Zeihan provides a detailed account of the Chechen situation as a representative example of the system's operation. The divide and rule strategy employed by Putin through the Kadyrov family effectively ended the independence push and ensured the Chechen region's loyalty. Despite Chechnya's economic separation from the rest of the Federation, it is politically aligned with Moscow, especially on security matters, including alleged assassinations of Putin's political enemies.
And from Putin's point of view, choosing Kadyrov's father, because that was who he originally appointed back in 2001 as his successor, was smart because he turned one faction of the Chechens against the other Chechen factions, and together with the Russian military, they were able to break them all. And so that faction was rewarded with control over a personal fiefdom, very medieval, very Middle Ages, very feudalistic. Of course, as will always happen to fathers, they will pass on in time. Kadyrov Sr. was assassinated, and so Kadyrov Jr., the current guy, took over. And yes, this guy is dumb as a bag of snakes. There's no argument there. But he is proven relentlessly capable of keeping Chechnya in line. So Chechnya is no longer functionally part of the Russian Federation from an economic point of view, but the independence push was squelched, and Kadyrov regularly participates with Moscow when it comes to security issues. Specifically, Putin relies upon the Chechens to assassinate people in Russia who he finds politically inconvenient.
Number 5. Hostage situation and conspiracy theories. Zeihan refers to a past data hostage situation involving Chechen terrorists to illustrate the ruthless approach Russia takes in dealing with security issues. He also mentions a conspiracy theory revolving around a 1999 bombing in Moscow, which was blamed on the Chechens and used as a pretext to start a second Chechen war. Zeihan suggests this could have been a manipulative act by Putin to rally public support, given his ethical track record.
Yeah, that was back in 2000. The theater situation, there were about 500 people who were in the theater. A bunch of Chechen terrorists, there's no other word, came in with explosives strapped to them. And because the Russians, let's just say that the emphasis that American hostage rescuers have on rescuing the hostages, that mindset doesn't really exist in Russia. So the Russian military just gassed the theater and killed 3/4 of the hostages, and then went in with gas masks and shot everyone who had an explosive vest. Well, they had real weapons and they had real vests and they had killed real people before the gas was released. And from the Russian point of view, this was broadly a success. So I don't mean to suggest that there's a conspiracy there. Now, whether or not they were ready for it, that's fair.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theory that if you're going to pay attention when you should pay attention to is that back in 1999, a couple of apartment blocks in Moscow were blown up. No one in Chechnya claimed credit for it, and the Chechens had kind of screamed all of their bombings and successes from the rooftops for every other attack they'd ever done. But Putin blamed the Chechens for them and used that to whip up Russian public opinion into a frenzy and launch the Second Chechen War. So did Putin do it to his own people? Considering his ethical standards, I don't think it should be ruled out, but there's certainly no proof one way or the other.
Overall, Zeihan offers a critical view of the political status quo in Russia, highlighting Putin's central role in maintaining control over a multifaceted and diverse empire through a system of strongmen. His analysis implies a high probability of political turmoil following Putin's departure, given the apparent absence of capable leadership successors and the fundamentally centralist and autocratic nature of the Russian political system. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Russia's political structure and the reign of President Putin. If you found Peter Zeihan's analysis informative and insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends. We'll continue to bring you more discussions on geopolitical affairs and expert analysis from around the globe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the bell icon to receive notifications on our latest uploads.